Dream a little dream of me. Welcome kindreds, it's Jessica TheStoryWitch and this is my bullet journal setup for March 2021. I've kind of brought you guys along from a little bit earlier in the process this month. I wanted to show how I pick my colour palette for the month. I had a vague idea that I wanted to go with greens for March because it's very much spring is springing here, even though we're still getting some cold days here in Wales. And for me, St David's Day as well, Dydd Gŵyl Dewi Sant is the 1st of March, which is our patron saint day here in Wales. And so yeah, green just seems like a good choice for March. So I picked out my Tombows and my washies, and you can see here I am still using some of the February colours just for this first spread, because each month I'm doing a little reflection spread on how things have gone, and I'm going to use the same 4 questions each month to reflect back on. It worked really well from going from January into February, and even though I'm still in February at the moment as I'm recording this, I feel like it's going to be a useful reflection tool. And then that's kind of the end of the washies and colours of February, and on to using the greens, and basically it's only green is the accent colour, and then I've gone with just a set of greys. I've been finding using a dark grey, a mid grey and a light grey is working really well. Oh, and that's some of my wallpaper from my bedroom, which is something I'm also using. If you've seen my other setups from this year, I'm using that through to give my journal a kind of more coherent feel this year. I think just because with the sizing up, it's really changed how I'm approaching it, and in some ways it just feels easier, which is kind of good for me this year, because like with everyone in the world at the moment, there's a lot of stuff going on, and having something that's easy and feels just kind of clean and clear is helping me to feel more like that as well, I think. So rather than doing topic themes, which is what I've been doing for the last couple of years in my journal, now I've gone up to the B5 format. I'm just doing colours, and also each month I'm doing these kind of wreaths just using stamps. I probably could doodle them, but I think the stamps they kind of give it a kind of homespunny, and it's not perfect, but it just feels nice, and I think it'll be nice to kind of flick through and see them as the year progresses. I've worked out roughly that I'm going to be able to fit about 6 months, I think, into this journal. It obviously depends how many actual journaling pages and things that I take, apart from what you see here as my setup, because I do have pages for tarot spreads for the full and new moon, and if I've done any spell work or anything like that, I'll write it in my journal as well, and research and stuff sometimes, or just notes and things. So I do take other pages apart from the setups that I'm showing you here. If you saw my last month's planner, I did do a flick through of what's kind of typical for me in a month of other spreads as well, so a kind of after the ink. I've seen some other bullet journalers doing really lovely after the ink videos. Obviously mine is not as professional as lots of people's, but it's mine and I love it, and I find it, like I said, is kind of this year is keeping me nurtured. I had some really good questions from the last journal, because I am definitely focusing more on productivity. My journal is more focused on habit tracking and stuff this year than it has been in previous years. I was rocking a might do list rather than a to do list last year, and I wasn't including habit trackers for a good few months of last year as well, just because with everything that was going on, I didn't really want to even be thinking about stuff like that. It was nice just to kind of have very minimal things to be looking and just going with the flow, I suppose. But this year I don't feel like that. I'm feeling like my habit trackers, far from being kind of tools to kind of berate myself with, I actually find that they help me to feel good. I don't ever feel the way I use habit trackers is not oh, I haven't done that habit, I'm a bad person. It's to just make me feel more organized. And so when I see that I haven't filled things in, I'm like, oh look, that's interesting. I didn't meditate perhaps on that day there, and then I felt like that, you know. And so it's to spot patterns and to see how the little things in my life kind of affect me, rather than being like, I must do these things, and if I don't do these things then I'm a bad person, you know. So I really feel like habit trackers can be kind of detrimental to mental health in some ways, because they can feel like another kind of yardstick to measure yourself against and feel like you're coming up wanting, and that is definitely not a healthy way to use them, you know. So like if you are using a habit tracker and you feel like it's not helpful for you, or it is maybe even hindering you or making you feel bad, then I just skip it. Just don't do it, because that's not what it's for. Maybe, you know, track other things instead. Track things that make you feel good. Yeah, I think sometimes as well, like if you feel like you're sort of half and half about it, I think putting a couple of things on there that are kind of easy wins is a nice one as well. Like I have walk my dog on my habit tracker, and I do that every single day anyway, so it's kind of an easy one for me, so I know I'm always going to have that marked off. So yeah, see how you feel, and just do what feels nurturing. I think journals should, yes, definitely help us to be productive, help us to kind of find those little bits of time that perhaps we might easily squander away doing things that aren't important to us. It keeps us focused on the things that are important, but it's definitely not a tool to like beat ourselves with. It's something supportive and nurturing, not something it's not another work thing. It's a nurturing, life-giving thing. So I hope that makes sense. I kind of went off on one there for a minute. So I'm sorry the same as last month, and people will ask me again, I'm sure, is that I use a sprocket printer, like a little mini printer, to print out my cards for the month, which I drew back at the end of last year. And I can't actually film the printing out because I use my phone to film, and I need my phone to also print out off the printer. So I can't do both things at the same time. You probably will have seen other people using them as well. They're just like little mini printers, and they print out little sticky stickers. And yeah, I find it kind of cute. I use it sometimes as well when I'm doing other tarot journaling. I'll take a photograph of the spread to keep it with my journal, because like sometimes the imagery is particularly pertinent on the cards, and so I want to save it as well. And then here I did a little bit differently from last month. I haven't filled in the astrology yet because I haven't had a chance to properly look ahead to March. I'm only in like the third week of February at the moment as I'm filming this, but I'll fill in underneath that flap with the moon cycles and that beautiful picture of a hare. I'll be filling in some of the astrological things that are going on in March, which is not as dense as February, so I'm hopeful that March is actually going to feel a little bit more free-flowing and a bit less tense. Maybe that's a good way of describing it. And this spread is one that I'm finding is working really, really well for me, so I've continued to do this since I started in the journal. It has had some slight tweaks. I shared some last time, and as I go through, this is like a weekly, so all of the days are on here for the week, and I find I can fill in pretty much most things on this spread, so I don't, once it's done for an entire week, and then I do the next one when that time comes around for, usually like about Thursday or Friday. I like to get the next week's done, and I do vary up the colours, not like different colours, the same colours in the palette, but here I've gone with like the green for the days, and then the kind of grid, but then the other months I'll swap it out, and I might use like the grey. Other weeks I'll swap it out and do like the grey for the grid, and then use the green for the titles, so even though it's coherent, it's not exactly the same, and it just makes me happy. I like it when I'm flicking back through, and it also helps me to kind of know which week I'm on once I've done the next week as well. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on the because in February this week I'm like, oh yeah, I'm on the pink week or pinky red week this week. So yeah, it's kind of cool. I'm loving the very just like minimal washy and very kind of sparse almost layout. Well, definitely for me. I know for some people it's not minimal, because some people, you know, do these gorgeous journals all in shades of grey and it just looks amazing, or even just like black and it all looks amazing. But yeah, for me this is definitely toning things down a good few notches, because I'm normally much more kind of collage happy. Although the other day I didn't actually do it in the end because something came up and I didn't have enough time. But I'm really thinking I might get into doing some art journaling again, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do it in my journal, because in theory the paper is thick enough in this is a Notebook Therapy Tsuki journal, and in theory the paper is thick enough to be able to take watercolor, paint, and I guess gesso as well, because it should, you know, it's kind of like card, like kind of thin card, so it should do. The only thing that's kind of holds me back is I think it's going to make it kind of chunky, because they already are quite thick and heavy, these journals, especially in the larger size, in the B5. So I haven't decided yet if I'm going to take the plunge and actually like art journal into this journal. I think, you know, like I could easily do like one spread and then see how much chunkier it makes the journal, and maybe decide from there. So if I do that, I'll try and remember to share it with you guys here as well. I'm finding the meal planning is really going really well. It's so nice because like I'm really on point with my shopping as well. I know what meals I'm going to be making. When the kids ask me what's going to be for tea, I'm like, oh yes, this, because I already know. Rather than being like, oh yeah, what we can have, and it's more stressful. So here is my finished setup for March 2021. It's very similar, I know, to what I've been doing for January and for February, and probably April will be very similar as well. I haven't chosen the colours for April yet. If you have any suggestions, let me know. I don't know, April for me seems kind of more like a purpley month. But yeah, there it is. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Warmest blessings, and I'll see you very soon.